All right. Yeah. Welcome to That's Good Broncos podcast. This is a podcast where Will Keys and I, me, Brandon Perna, talk about the Denver Broncos, NFL news, sometimes both, sometimes neither. Today, we've got draft update, free agency update with Cap Room. The cap has been set. And then I saw a tweet about Kyle Pitts, and if you watched our mock draft from last week, Kyle Pitts kept coming up, baby.
He's hot.
Now, Will and I are going to discuss whether or not the Broncos should draft Kyle Pitts, because there's a chance he does fall to them at 9 if they stay at 9, because there might be a crazy dumb run on quarterbacks early, so that means some very good players might fall. And I thought it would be an interesting conversation to have about the tight end, even though the Broncos don't need a tight end, but why might they want to do that? So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe to these podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts, so you don't have to look at our faces. That's
a plus.
Some people like to look at our faces, some people don't. Some people hate our voices, so they just put on this podcast and watch us but don't listen to it, which is weird because that's just an hour of looking at Will and I, and there are no subtitles, so you're really fucked if you do it that way. But that's how I tell you to listen to the podcasts or subscribe. Today's episode brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Use code DNVR when you sign up to take advantage of their can't miss offers. Okay, Broncos have $33 million in cap space heading into free agency, Will. That seems to be the number.
That's a lot of money.
It's a good amount of money this season.
Good chunk of change.
Top 10-ish for cap space. So that is good.
I think they're like top 5, right?
Ooh, let me confirm.
I think they're looking pretty good.
Yeah,
you got teams like the Falcons who are in the red. They need to free up money, and they only have like 39 players under contract.
Yeah, the Saints are the same. The Broncos are 9th right now in cap space. The Saints jumped past the Los Angeles Rams, who now have the most over the cap money at $32 million. The Saints are just at 30.
I take it back. You're doing cap space after the Justin Simmons thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like the franchise tag? Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, factor that in because assuming they rework a deal with him, I don't think that will change the cap this year much with him.
Probably not.
But $33 million does give him enough money to re-sign Shelby Harris. And then depending on what happens with Tim Patrick and the Tenders, Philip Lindsay, they can bring those guys back. They'll be cheaper.
Johnson.
And they can sign a couple impact free agents. They can sign a corner, which would be nice.
There are corners out there now. Malcolm Butler just got released. What do you think about him?
Ooh, man, that's tough.
Keep him away from Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, I think his play is declining a bit, but
fair.
Depends on the price.
Here's the thing, though. A lot of people think you're signing a cornerback means that you're not going to spend a draft pick.
No, you do
on
both.
The position, which is just not true. It's really not an either or thing. It just makes it so you don't have to spend the first rounder on a corner. Because if they don't sign anybody in free agency, then you've kind of backed yourself into a corner, pardon the pun, where you have to take a cornerback really early on, or else there's going to be huge deficiency, you would think, in your defense, unless you get like someone like OJ Mudia to really step his game up. And if Bryce Callahan gets hurt, which is seems fairly likely given recent history, then you're playing the whole season like it's that Buffalo Bills game.
Yeah. The Broncos should sign a corner at free agent, and then they should draft one. And maybe they do use the first pick on it. It depends on how that shakes out. But you want to have a little bit of flexibility there to keep your options open.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is there's, free agency starts next Wednesday, but it really starts Monday is when the tampering period opens. But between now and then, we may see a bunch more guys become available. Like, it seems like every hour on Twitter, I just see an update of teams releasing guys. It's like Bills just released John Brown.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they released John Brown,
Damn.
and this is how bad my brain is. Like, I literally just had it in the episode, and I can't remember the other guy. John Brown and defensive lineman Quentin Jefferson. God damn. So yeah, then Emmanuel Sanders, Quan Alexander get dropped by the Saints. Like, shit's happening fast, and
yeah, the Saints might have to even keep going.
Yeah, with what Will just said too, Saints in trouble, Rams in trouble. Like, you might see players you didn't expect to be cut. So a really good corner might become available, or another position of need that you didn't think you were going to address through free agency, but all of a sudden you do. So, yeah, I think the Broncos will make a play for a corner in free agency. They have the money to do it. And the other thing I'm starting to see a lot of, I saw Benjamin Albright tweet about it. I saw Chad Jensen post an article sourcing ESPN, but the Broncos are probably not going to stay at 9 with their pick. So I don't know what that means. They're going to move back, which is what I would assume. It doesn't feel like they're in on a quarterback for this draft. And I think if you're moving up in the draft, you're moving up for a QB. So I'm going to guess they're moving back.
Yeah,
because they know so many people are wanting quarterbacks. And maybe, they're going to get some extra picks in the second round, third round, because they didn't get any compensatory picks this year. So they have 1 first rounder, 1 second rounder, 1 third, 1 fourth, 1 5, 1 6, and then 3 7s. It seems like they always have 3 7th round picks.
Yeah, and like usually one of them ends up being pretty good.
One of them is Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, which is a home run for a 7th round pick.
For 7th round pick, yeah, Siemian was fucking great.
I guess you could also get. They tendered so many players that if one of them gets an offer, then you could get a pick from that. I'm not sure if that works this year and next year, but that's something to watch, I guess. There's corners available. That seems to be the obvious pick at 9, but I think you'd be kind of dumb knowing that, like, obviously the first plan is, the most likely scenario is you give Drew Lock another year, but given how kind of anything can happen in the top 10 and weird things always will happen, to not wait at 9 and just kind of see if one of the quarterbacks fall to 9. I think you kind of have to hang around to see if that happens.
Yeah, right? I don't think they would trade it prematurely, but
you kind of have to go like in with the plan, like, all right, so Trevor Lawrence is going to go, Zach Wilson's going to go, but then Trey Lance and Justin Fields, if you like one of them, you never know what could happen. Like, one of those guys could fall to 9. I just saw like a mock draft where Justin Fields fell to 24 to the Steelers. That's Charlie Casserly from the NFL Network, and he's
terrible,
possibly senile. So I really don't think he's going to fall to 24, but that could be an indication that he knows a lot of guys. Maybe a lot of teams aren't very high on him. Not that he's like my preferred quarterback out of the 4, because he's not. But if the Broncos like him, that's a possible scenario. That's something that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the 2018 draft, bunch of quarterbacks, right? Baker, Darnold, Rosen, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And Lamar was what, 30? He was the last pick in the draft, or 30th or
Yeah, well,
some
you
shit.
have you have Josh Rosen at 10, and you have 9 mistakes in front of him. To quote Josh Rosen.
Yeah, so Rosen went 10, Allen went 7. Yeah, so this draft, like, if Rosen, like, which guy is going to be the Rosen that falls to 10? So the Broncos could be sitting there at 9 with, and I'm not saying, like, this draft has that same sort of, I don't even want to use the word pedigree, but people were high on a bunch of quarterbacks going early in that draft before the draft started. And it feels like this draft kind of has that same momentum where
Yeah.
even though there's probably bigger questions about a lot of these guys because last season was so screwed up, it seems like there are just more teams who need to or who are willing to go get that young quarterback. And teams that don't need quarterbacks like the Falcons, they don't need to take a quarterback this year, but it seems like they might be in
A
play
lot
for
of
it.
people think they will.
Right, because you don't know what you're gonna, how long Matt Ryan's gonna play or what they're gonna do with him.
Yeah.
But like you don't have to take a quarterback because you have Matt Ryan, and they might not take one.
So there's one team in the top 5 that's absolutely not taking a quarterback, and it's the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah,
I I mean, if they want to take a quarterback, I wouldn't recommend it. They could. It's probably not going to happen. The Jaguars are a lock. They will take Trevor Lawrence,
right.
or there's like a 5% chance they take Zach Wilson, but it will be a
If they listen to
quarterback.
my video, they will just stick with Gardner Minshew.
Right? Yeah, right. I'm sure Urban Meyer's been watching. That's why he took the job.
That's right.
The
Oh,
Jets don't have to take a quarterback. They can. Zach Wilson will probably be there for them. Anyone else will be there. Justin Fields and Trey Lance. They're going to have a pick of all 3, or they can go off the board, take a defensive player, take a wide receiver, take a tackle, and stick with Sam Darnold. I don't think that's a terrible idea. Just saying there's options. You have the Dolphins after that. I think it would be dumb to take a quarterback again. I think you either you push in all the chips and get Deshaun Watson, or you give Tua another chance, which feels
yeah,
obvious, but somehow it's you know, it's just it's not like it's not the go-to answer now after in a post Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray kind of NFL. Falcons are the same. You can see them stick with Matt Ryan and be like, "What? This is the best quarterback our franchise has ever had. He's not getting worse. Why would we? We have
yeah,
other holes to fill." You could also see them taking a quarterback and giving Ryan another year and trading him.
yeah. And they could even just take a quarterback like later. But
Yeah.
um, if I were the Falcons, I mean that's tough because the big X factor there is they have a new head coach, a new general manager. Like you assume those guys might want to try and do things their way or build with new players. It's just like you don't know. If it were the same people, then I would not expect them to draft a quarterback. But this year they might there. It's
They
just
could.
it's going to be interesting. Last year, because of the pandemic and then the draft going like virtually, I felt like it was the least sort of interesting draft we had.
Yeah, it was pretty much chalk. I don't think any trades in the first round really.
Yeah, it was
A
crazy. It
couple,
was just
but not
little movement, very little movement.
not early on.
I think this year there will be more people will be more comfortable doing it this way. I don't even know exactly how they're going to do the draft. By that time, I don't know, they may go into emergency. We can do this live. We'll rush it together.
Did they ever announce where it was like supposed to be? Because it was supposed to be in Las Vegas last year.
Yeah, and then they were just like, we'll do it in Vegas next year. And now it's or the year after, some shit. I don't know.
It feels like a pretty big production to like
Yeah.
kind of wing it at the last second. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they're probably just gonna do it virtually again.
Get another late night Goodell.
Yeah. Get out on the basement.
Goodell in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay. So also in Broncos news, Melvin Gordon's DUI charges dropped.
Never happened.
Never happened. He pled guilty to reckless driving. Got a bunch of points taken off of his license, going 71 and 35, but no DUI charges. So Gordon won't be suspended. The league's not going to do anything because if there's not like enough legal mumbo jumbo there to charge him, the league's got to be like, well, why the fuck would we punish him then? Which also means his money will be guaranteed, and I'm fairly certain this means he will be returning for the Broncos at about a $7 million salary or some shit. So he and Von Miller both escape what could have been kind of shitty situations for them. I think the Broncos would be wise to... They're going to keep him. It's good. I think having Gordon next year is good, and that doesn't mean the Broncos can't deal... or let Philip Lindsay go if somebody wants him, and doesn't mean they won't draft a running back in this draft. I think it's another position you can take late if there's a guy there you really like.
I wouldn't burn like a first round pick on a running back, even if you trade back.
No, not first rounder.
If you're like sitting there in the second round and Najee Harris is still there, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
At that point, if he's the best player available and he's not, you're not burning a first round pick on him. Like, I don't know if it's ideal to take a running back even that high, but if you really think he's good, I wouldn't have a problem taking a running back after that point. Here's the thing though, is people, the cool cats out there, the analytic nerds, really got upset when the Broncos signed Melvin Gordon last year. Even though when you look at it, like they're allocating so little money to the running back position as a whole that they could afford to do it. They're not paying a quarterback either. It kind of makes sense. Like, okay, let's pair Philip Lindsay with someone who's not Royce Freeman in case he gets hurt. Turns out Philip Lindsay got hurt. Melvin Gordon filled in, I thought, really, really well. Came up just short of 1,000 yards. Yeah, he fumbled, but had a really nice back half to the season.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon feels like the kind of running back that should just be in the game the whole game.
I know. It's kind of diminishing returns when you try to find situations for Philip Lindsay, because I think Lindsay just kind of gets better as the game goes on. And he's not a third down back necessarily. Gordon's kind of the third down back, so he can catch and he can get open a little bit better.
Yeah, but I mean that's what I'm saying. Melvin Gordon is the kind of running back you just want to leave in for the whole game.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, late in the game, I'd almost rather have Lindsay just because I'd worry about giving the ball away.
Yeah, but then you had those plays like Melvin Gordon was making on 4th down where he one-hands catches on the sideline and keeps your drive alive.
Yeah, I mean, you can point to
I'm
that.
Just saying, like,
running into the Jets, too.
In terms of, like, stylistically, I guess, if you will, like, Gordon can be a physical runner. He can catch the passes, and he's pretty good at breaking tackles. It's not like a knock against Philip Lindsay and saying you can't utilize a back like that because you can. I'm just not sure the Broncos offense, Pat Shurmur, is equipped to properly do that. And I feel like Philip Lindsay could have more success somewhere else. Like, I feel like there's another organization out there who would use him more appropriately. Because when Philip Lindsay is hot, he is a very dynamic back, and he turns plays into big plays, big gains. It was like 2 years ago, it felt like he was the only player cranking out, like 40-yard runs, and he was doing it felt like every week. I just hope, like, if he stays, if they want to keep him, I just hope they figure out a better way to utilize both back skill sets, and I think you can do both.
So I think when people talk about not paying running backs, you don't get into trouble. Like, you're not fucking your whole team over when you sign Melvin Gordon for 2 years, $10 million.
Yeah,
You
they're
fuck
talking
yourself.
about Zeke.
Yeah, you fuck yourself up when you pay Ezekiel Elliott $90 million over 6 years. That's when you're like, oh, God damn it. Now we can't pay anybody on defense.
Yeah, that's what
Because we got to pay the quarterback now, too.
like I was trying to say. It felt like everybody was pissed off about Dak Prescott's new deal, and today I
pissed
said
off
like,
about the Zeke contract. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why you shouldn't take him in the top 5 anyway, because then you feel obligated to keep him around because you already sunk a top 5 pick there.
right. It's like you shouldn't be mad at
Jalen
Dak
Ramsey.
Prescott because Jerry Jones overpaid other people.
Yeah.
Like you can argue maybe a couple $1,000,000 here and there for a deal with Dak, but he's a good quarterback, and that's just what it's going to fucking cost. I wish the Broncos were thinking about how much they were going to pay Drew Lock. You know what I mean?
No, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
You don't want to give like a huge deal to a guy who like you want to avoid Carson Wentz, Jared Goff kind of stuff. Even I think like the Carson Wentz one was kind of hard to predict. Like no one saw him really, really sucking last year like he did. I think the Jared Goff one was a little easier to see coming because he sucked so bad as a rookie, and then he got so much better with McVay around him that you could be like, I don't know if it's worth it to give all this money to a quarterback when McVay seems like he's the star or the straw that stirs the drink. So you got to be careful, but I think Dak is good enough to the point where you're not going to regret that.
Yeah, Dak's skill set is there. There's no arguing that he's good. Jared Goff was he's just such a he can be good, but it's like everything has to go right for him. It's like Dak,
Yep.
if everything's going right, you feel like you're gonna have a really good team. And no, last year was such a good example of how bad the Cowboys really were without him. They weren't good with him, but they were competitive and they could score a fuck ton of points. Then he left, and you're like, oh fuck, this team is terrible.
Yeah, this team's garbage. Like they have great receivers and a good running back, and it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, their line got worse. Their defense got bad. It's not a recipe for winning. Now, before we get to Kyle Pitts, the main thing we were going to talk about, let me tell you about a little company called DraftKings. Well, it's that time of year again. Conference tournaments are tipping off. Bubble teams are making their final push for a bid, while the top seeds are preparing for what they hope is a long run. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new customers in the center of the action. Bet $4 on an underdog. Win $256 if they win. It is that simple. That's bet $4 on an underdog in select college basketball games. And if they win, you collect $256. Guess what? The bank is open, baby. Pick one of the many select college basketball underdogs for your shot at winning $256. All it takes is a $4 bet. And if you're not into college basketball, don't worry. DraftKings has offers and great odds boosts and promotions on golf, hockey, baseball's coming up, basketball of NBA sorts is always happening. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to turn $4 into $256 if the underdog of your choosing pulls off the upset. That's code DNVR to turn $4 into $256 for a limited time only. DraftKings Sportsbook. Gotta be 21. Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Drew Lock. Somebody dropped
Hold on. I think that ad copy was so well written. It could have been done by Don Draper himself.
Oh, happy 50th birthday, John
Happy
Hamm.
50th birthday to John Hamm. Anyway, go ahead.
No,
Drew.
I meant to wish John Hamm a happy birthday at the top of the show, honestly.
That's all right. As long as it gets done. We had to.
It was weird. Yesterday, for some reason, I was thinking about tweeting, if you could have the job of one film or television character, whose job would you want? And
Ooh,
mine
that's
was
a good
Don
question.
Draper. Like the one of the reasons like I love Mad Men is it just makes me like this nostalgic feeling of living in a workplace where you got paid a ton of money and you could just drink all day.
Yeah, men want to be him. Women want to be with him.
Yeah.
The only one that doesn't want to be Don Draper is Don Draper.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't want his internal battles, but in
Which,
terms,
by the way, no spoilers, he isn't really Don Draper.
oh my God, you just ruined it. Actually, I would want Roger Sterling's job.
Yeah, that sounds just as good.
His job was just to go out and get drunk and eat,
Yeah, you get clients
eat
drunk,
guys.
basically.
Yeah. He was not really essential to the company, just one big lucky strike client,
hmm
and that's the dream. And power, lots of power.
Fought in
Still.
World War II,
Yep.
survived. Yeah, great job.
Anyway, okay, so this Drew Lock video got dropped on Twitter today, and I immediately tweeted. I'll play the video right now. I played it. Okay, so you saw it. You saw Drew Lock chirping at the fans. I think this was the Panthers game, maybe, where he went off. And
I
at the
think
end,
no, I think it was the Chargers game.
oh, it was the Chargers game.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
This-
one of the games he played well, right?
Yeah, well, he's playing really, really badly. I think they're done what, 21 points?
In the Chargers
Came
game.
back? Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
So, like, he's super excited on the sideline, and, like, the crowd's cheering, and he's, like, telling the crowd, like, no, no, don't you cheer for me, because they're probably talking shit to him all game.
The whole game. And the stadium was so quiet that day, I bet, because this is like the last time they had fans in the stadium. And
Yeah.
it was what, like 20% capacity?
So you can
So
hear
you
everything.
could probably hear everything they're
Yeah.
saying to him.
And if you've ever been to a football game, fans are terrible.
Awful.
They
Awful
are
people.
awful.
Yeah.
But I immediately tweeted, trade him. Too much Kansas City blood in his veins. Only cool when Jake Plummer flipped off the crowd. Assuming people understand, like, I'm being pretty fucking sarcastic there.
And
But man, Broncos fans, be sensitive these days. And there's a handful of people really defending Drew Lock. I just wanted to let you guys know, I'm kidding. It's a joke. In no way does this thing change my opinion on Drew Lock. I'm honestly 100% indifferent to Drew Lock. I hope he becomes great for the Broncos. I don't think he will. So if he stays or goes, I'm okay with it. Because I've been living in a football world of fucking mediocrity for 5 years, so I have no football soul anymore. I have been stripped down to nothing. Do I want Drew Lock to be awesome? Yes. I would not make horsecock lock shirts if I didn't. I believed in him, but this last season was Will and I have called it a wash several times. We'll give him a chance again, but he's got a lot to prove. But again, I don't think how he reacted to the crowd makes any fucking difference. It was a joke. I just needed to clear that up. But if we were take artists, how could we spin this into something completely dramatic that it doesn't need to be? Will.
yeah, I think you nailed it when you said this is backwards cap energy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the last thing you want is a starting quarterback who wears a backwards hat.
Yeah. You don't
That's-
want him.
Your quarterback has to be the CEO of the franchise.
Yeah.
And would you invest in a company with a CEO that wore a backwards hat, metaphorically speaking, flipped off his investors, mouthed rap lyrics on the sideline, did a dance after
Dance.
merging with a company or signing a big deal? I don't know what companies do.
I'll tell you what. Don Draper would not have pitched to the company with the backwards hat CEO. He would not even have taken that.
I don't think you could. Technically, I'm not sure you could wear your hat backwards.
It's just the top hat.
They're
the business
all,
hats.
Yeah, they're all fedoras and stuff.
They need to bring those back. Not because they were a little different than fedoras, but they looked like.
Yeah, Cam Newton's trying his best.
Yeah, I mean,
you never went back in those days. You never went anywhere without a hat. No, you just couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah. People not showing enough deference to God. They're keeping their heads uncovered. It's a mess. That's why we've collapsed.
I just love this time of year where anything could get blown up into a storm.
Yeah. But seriously, I heard about I heard that this video existed before I saw it. Like I heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people were like, well, there's a video out there, but it's not great. Like it's like the Dez Bryant video that we never got to saw that Adam Schefter was talking about. Like this is the Ray Rice video or something.
God, yeah, it's just Drew Lock.
Who gives
up on the sideline?
He played so well late in that game. He got shit talked really, really badly. I was shit talking him and Pat Shurmur at home. But like I said, it was a really weird situation because there were so few fans of that game.
Yeah.
There was so little noise that you could hear. I'm sure you could hear everything coming from the stands.
I like the idea of the fans so incredibly lucky to be at that game.
Yeah.
Only to talk shit to their starting quarterback for 2.5 hours.
To be fair, that was an unwatchable game for.
Yeah, no, you could say that about half the games.
That one was particularly bad, and then it went from awful to
amazing.
Like the most fun game.
It was like a Tebow game.
Yeah, and Drew played great, threw 3 touchdowns, I think, in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think the fans, on one hand, were, like, right to be upset and right to boo. It just felt a lot more personal given how few of them there were. And I think Drew was right to be able to say, like, fuck you, I did it. Yeah, you want to boo me now?
Yeah, there needs to be, like, a proper way to boo your own team versus the way you boo an opponent. Like, when opponent's there and like everybody's like booing unanimously together and it's really sort of like daunting, that's great for the opponents. But like you need like a chummy sort of boo to you, sir. Boo to you, Drew. Like I'm upset with the way you're playing. It's not personal, but I would like it to be a little better.
Yeah. People, unfortunately, don't know how to not make it personal, especially given, like, here's the thing. I think here's why the Malice at the Palace with Ron Artest was great. Is because it put the fear of God into fans.
Yeah,
if they piss off
every now and then,
if they piss off a world-class athlete, there's a 1% chance he could charge the crowd and beat you within an inch of your life.
You know what I think would fix it?
What?
If quarterbacks, they got one fan ball per game.
I was thinking the same thing.
And they got to choose whether to give it to a deserving fan or fucking launch it at some asshole fan's face and try to Marsha Brady them. You know what I mean? Just bust them up with a fucking laser. That would keep things just a little more even keel. Like if you thought
there's a little bit of like risk reward for the quarterback because if you have a bad day and you're getting heckled and you want to use the fan ball as
then you miss the fan
weapon and you miss it, then it looks even worse.
Yeah, or if you're just Drew Brees right now.
Yeah, it's like it feels like
you've got like 30 seconds to catch this.
It feels like a light breeze coming at you.
Did you know his rotator cuff was torn this year too?
No. I
just learned that today. I don't know if his throwing shoulder or not, but
I would think probably not.
And he had a foot injury apparently, so
it feels like he's just coming back, right? At this point,
Like, I feel like okay, let's say he had broken ribs, collapsed lung, torn rotator cuff, and a foot injury, and now all of them are healed. He's got to feel like, fuck yeah, I can play some football again.
Yeah, maybe he can.
Half my body was broken. Nobody really knows how badly I was injured.
Yeah. Although at that age, I'm not confident.
Yeah, it's going to happen again, man.
You get less injured over the course of time.
Yeah.
But it feels like if you go into free agency without saying I retire,
yeah,
you're coming back.
He's coming back. Really, like, we should be doing a video about why hasn't Drew Brees retired yet. Seems like that should be a huge story.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, every day he doesn't retire is, a day where the Saints are like, fuck, what are we going to do?
Yeah, I mean, all right. Kyle Pitts. The Broncos should draft him. I said this is what the episode would be about, and you're getting it. Okay. So again, Will and I did a mock draft last week. Kyle Pitts, available almost every single time at 9. I think we did a draft where we just took a bunch of tight ends, right?
We took
or we talk about it and not do that.
We took all quarterbacks, I think.
All quarterbacks. We got 20 draft picks by trading back and back. But during that draft, Will told me that Kyle Pitts is really, really good and that he's most likely of any player in this draft to have a, quote, Hall of Fame career. Like, he's that good.
I think someone else said that, too. Someone, like, with good opinions said that. I think
a bunch of
Jeremiah. Yeah.
Since then, I've seen tons of stuff about Kyle Pitts. I watched some highlight videos. He wears number 84. He played for the Gators, so it's Shannon Sharp in orange and blue, basically. Like, dude catches everything. He had 12 touchdowns last year. Ball hawk.
Yeah. Like, the crazy thing, too, is has the potential to be the best receiving tight end in the league. Could also play X wide receiver. So, like, hypothetically, if Cortland Sutton got hurt again, he could fill in for Cortland Sutton at wide receiver. That's what people think.
Yeah, you're basically talking about, like, a George Kittle type threat, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I think he's probably could be a better receiver, scheme notwithstanding. Not as good a blocker, though.
Okay.
Because Kittle's like he's an incredible blocker. Yeah.
Yeah. So I decided we should talk about this because I saw Nick Kindle tweet, to the Broncos shouldn't take Kyle Pitts at 9 crowd because they are set at tight end. Let me say the Lions in the 2014 draft passed on Aaron fucking Donald to take Eric Ebron because they were set at interior defensive line with Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley. Draft picks must be thought of with a career-long scope, period. And I just thought that was a good point. And then I thought, okay, you put Kyle Pitts on the Broncos. Now they have 3 possibly very good tight ends if Albert O comes back healthy, which he's probably going to miss at least half the season trying to recover from that ACL tear because it happened middle of the season-ish. You just don't know. Every knee is different. But let's just assume, for the argument, Kyle Pitts is better than Noah Fant. The Broncos are in a great position with Fant and Pitts because you could decide you want to keep both. Having 2 really good tight ends, not a bad problem. Or you could trade Noah Fant before you have to pay him and then probably get a pretty good draft pick or multiple draft picks in return for that. So the return you get on Kyle Pitts isn't just a great player at an important position. And I think tight end's a tough position to kind of hit on. There's a lot of like average tight ends, but the really good ones are harder to find. And thinking about that tweet, thinking about everything you said before we did this, Will, yes, I am all in on the Kyle Pitts if the Broncos take him at 9 train.
Yeah, if you think – so here's the thing. If you think there's a Hall of Famer on the board when you're picking –
take him.
You should take him. The only scenario where you should not take that player is if you already have a Hall of Fame quarterback and there's a Hall of Fame quarterback on the board, because you can't play two quarterbacks at once.
Yeah, although that did work for the Packers.
Did work for the Packers. If there's a Hall of Fame quarterback at the end of his career.
Yeah, if it's an old Hall of Fame quarterback, go for it.
Yeah. You can play two tight ends.
Yeah.
You can also play one tight end and Kyle Pitts at wide receiver. That's a really, really dangerous offense. I know you just spent a first-round pick on a wide receiver the year before, but that's your only first-round wide receiver. Then you have a first-round tight end. Oh, here, just if you have a Hall of Famer right in front of you, just take him.
Take the guy.
And figure it out later.
Yeah, no, I think that's like, you wouldn't pass on Ray Lewis if he was available to you. If you had linebackers, you wouldn't pass on Ed Reed just because he had a couple safeties already. Like and you can't know that, but if the general consensus is this guy is probably should be considered like a top 5 pick in this draft, but won't be because of quarterbacks, and he gets to you, take that guy.
Just take him. Like if the Falcons decided they're not taking a quarterback, do you think they would let like Hayden Hurst stop them from taking Kyle Pitts? And Hayden Hurst is a really good tight end.
Yeah.
With a really good receiver, can do a lot of different things, but he's not Kyle Pitts. Because you take Kyle Pitts doesn't mean you have to get rid of Hayden Hurst, and because you take Kyle Pitts doesn't mean you have to get rid of Noah Fant. In fact, he could make Noah Fant better too.
Yeah, like Noah Fant could just be open all the time. Yeah, how would you like that?
And it's not like Noah Fant hasn't gotten hurt either.
Correct.
Right? He's gotten hurt. Akua Bunam is coming off of an ACL tear. There's no guarantee that he turns out to be good. And Noah Fant at this point he's not on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He's a really good tight end.
Yeah, and I think not to totally interrupt you, but I think like Broncos fans think more highly of Noah Fant than the rest of maybe the league. Like I think people probably look at him as more of a middle of the road tight end, where we feel like he can be a top tier guy. But also that really, depends on what you're getting from your quarterback play. And he might be a top 10, top 5 tight end if QB play is consistent. But right now you could argue that, if you're getting a once-in-a-lifetime type tight end, it's a definite upgrade over a guy you think is good.
Yeah, totally. It's like saying, okay, Quentin Nelson's on the board, but we're not going to take him because we have Graham Glasgow. And Glasgow's... And
Dalton Reisner, right?
Yeah. So it's like, well, Glasgow's not a problem. Like, we don't need a guard necessarily. We don't have the best guards in the world. We don't need a guard. So we're going to pass up on this guy.
Yeah.
So just get like the more good players you have, regardless of position, you're going to be set. You don't want to have like it's not like you're picking a team. When you're building a team, you don't want to like plug holes necessarily. That's not priority number one. You don't want to have huge glaring deficiencies. But if you have like an incredible position group, that's better than like having a bunch of average ones with no necessarily like holes, because every team in the NFL, I think, has a weakness.
Yeah, no, you
just
you
about. Maybe not the team that won the Super Bowl this year.
No, end of the season, the Buccaneers had basically no weaknesses,
and they won. So
definitely through the playoffs,
get like one or two teams with no weaknesses.
They have no weaknesses, and they were still beatable, right? They just nobody could do it. But, I completely agree with that point, and I had that thought earlier. And it's like, even a team, say like the Tennessee Titans, they got to the postseason, right? Yeah. But they lost.
They won the division. Yeah, lost the wild card round to the Ravens.
They had a bunch of deficiencies on defense.
Yeah.
but they had a great offense. They had the best running back in the league. They had two great wide receivers and a very good tight end. That's probably going to change, but it's a whole unit that is really, really good and firing on all cylinders, can carry you. The Chiefs with their offense, yes, Patrick Mahomes is great, but Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, all of these weapons to catch the ball, it carries and makes up for other areas of weakness. And if you can keep fucking adding fuel to that with young players that you're yet to pay, it puts you at an advantage. And if you have too many good players at one position,
it's an asset.
Part ways with one of, because free agency, these guys, it is. And the NFL almost feels like college football to me in the turnover time. The 4-year sort of rookie window, there's just tons of turnover there, and you're not signing all those guys. You're trying to keep the good ones, and you don't even get to keep all of the good ones because usually there's one or two guys you don't want to pay, even though you drafted them with the intention of eventually paying them. You just can't do it. So, yeah. Also, you don't get those opportunities very often when you're picking late in the draft. You might pick a Hall of Famer later in the draft, right? You might pick your Terrell Davis, but it's not a guy people already think is that good. And you only get that chance when you're in top 10, top 15 to maybe get one of those guys who people agree coming out of college could be that impactful to your organization. So,
yeah, totally. I think so. It's not good, I think, to just draft need if you need a guy like this year. I think if you have a glaring need, you should probably attack that in free agency. Because a free agent's supposed to make an immediate impact.
Full circle here at this podcast.
Yeah. So, and if you want a player who's going to be good in a couple of years, then you draft him. But don't expect him to plug that hole right away. He might. There's a chance, but it's not that's not something you want to count on. So just take the best player. There's other rounds too. We act like it's a first round and everything else is just kind of random. But you can also spend a second rounder on a corner.
Yeah.
The Bucks got Antoine Winfield in the second round. The Panthers got Jeremy Chin in the second round. I know these guys are safeties and not corners necessarily, although they can kind of play versatily.
It's your secondary.
Yeah, the Bucks secondary mostly came in the mid rounds, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Mid-round guys or day 2 guys or whatever. So you don't have to just, if Patrick Surtain was a Kyle Pitts level prospect, then you'd be like, oh, this is perfect because we need a cornerback and the best player available is a cornerback.
Yeah. Who's the last cornerback that people thought was that good and was taken early in the first round?
I'd say probably Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Maybe Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah, but even
I guess the guy last year, who's the dude from Jeff Okudah? What did he get? 2 or 3? And he
went to the Lions.
He was mostly hurt last year. It's they needed a cornerback because Darius Slay left. They draft a position in need. They think he's going to be really good, but you don't know that. And he definitely didn't play. He didn't fill that hole in year 1. Not to say that he can't still be better than Slay, but it's not a quick fix. The draft is not for quick fixes.
Yeah, it was Jeff Okudah, then C.J. Henderson. Yeah, it's just corner's a tough position, I feel, to draft.
It's tough. There's also, I mentioned it earlier too. It's okay, you spent a 3rd rounder on OJ Mudia. there's a chance that he takes a big leap and the Broncos are set at the number 2 cornerback position this year.
Yeah, that could happen. I mean,
could happen. You can see Asang Bassi get better too, and make a good slot corner, good nickel corner.
Yeah, I'm just looking at corners. It's a tricky one. Anyway, we've talked enough today. I agree with everything Will says. Will agrees.
I agree with everything you said. Yeah.
Drew Lock. I hope this year he just pulls it out and shows the Broncos crowd his penis. And I hope it's in a fit of rage. And I will defend that. I will find a way to defend that.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be celebrated.
Whip it out.
Good night and good luck.